I'm Elizabeth Johnson, and welcome to another segment of From the Source. Today, I'm happy to have as my guest the top cop of the newly reopened Nassau County 6th Precinct, Inspector and Commanding Officer Robert G. Fitchett. The precinct covers a large area, including Great Neck proper, Saddle Rock Estates, Harbor Hills, Kensington, Thomaston, Great Neck Gardens, Russell Gardens, University Gardens, all of Manhasset and its 5 villages, North Hills, Manor Haven, Sea Cliff, Roslyn Heights, Roslyn Harbor, East Hills, Greenvale, Glen Head, and Glenwood Landing. Wow, that's a lot of territory. Welcome, Inspector Fitchett. Thank you so much for coming on From the Source.
Well, thank you, Elizabeth, for having me.
It's wonderful to have the 6th Precinct newly reopened and functioning. But people want to know a little bit about your background. So could you share?
Oh, absolutely, Elizabeth. I am newly promoted to inspector. It happened September 1st.
Congratulations.
And I was assigned here to the 6th Precinct. I'm in my 38th year of law enforcement.
Wow.
I started in 1982 with the New York City Correction Department. Okay. Then I was a court officer in Manhattan, and I started with the Nassau County Police in April of 1986.
86, okay.
So I've been a patrol officer in the 2nd Precinct. I was a plainclothes officer in the 2nd Precinct. I was a detective in the 5th Precinct. Was a sergeant in the 3rd Precinct and detective sergeant in internal affairs in the 4th Precinct and the 8th Precinct. I was a lieutenant in the 3rd Precinct and in the 1st Squad and Special Victims Unit. I commanded the Special Victims Unit. I commanded the Applicant Investigation Unit, the 1st Squad, and then I was promoted to captain. I was assigned to the 5th Precinct for a short time, and then the 4th Precinct. Then I was assigned to the 1st Precinct just recently, and then came here in September. Of course, there was other stops in between there. I can't remember everything offhand.
Wow, that is impressive. So you have a great background. Plus, I understand you have a little bit of FBI training.
Yes, I attended the FBI Academy in the summer of 2010, which is a training program for upper management of police departments. It's run by the Justice Department and the FBI. It's a 10 or 11-week course. It depends on what time of the year you go. Mm-hmm. And it's a lot of leadership involved in the course.
Awesome. Well, we're so happy to have you as the leader and commanding officer of the 6th Precinct, and we're grateful that it's open after 7 years. It was a little bit of a journey to get to the reopening, but we're really happy to be here. When the 6th Precinct was merged with the 3rd in 2012, there was a considerable amount of work that needed to be done on the 6th Precinct now in order to restore it to a working facility. What work has been done on the interior as well as the exterior of that building? And I know it's been recent.
Well, Elizabeth, there was a major undertaking for the department and the county itself with the Department of Public Works. But the first thing they did was redo the parking lot. They ripped up all the old asphalt and repaved it, put more lines and everything on there. They did all that just because it was in disrepair. It had a lot of holes in it. They power washed the outside of the building and repainted the outside, put new stairways in, front and back, took new floors, new ceilings, new lighting, new furniture, new bathroom fixtures, new showers. It seems like it's brand new.
Okay. What about the roof?
The roof, I believe, was redone.
Okay,
it's hard to see.
It's usually the first thing that you have to take care of. But so it sounds like you almost have a brand new building.
It feels brand new. It feels brand new. I hadn't worked there before, so I wasn't used to the old building. But the people that are there say it's totally different than it was, even though it's the exact same footprint. There's no add-ons or subtractions. It's the exact same footprint, just redoing the inside and sprucing up the outside.
That's awesome. So how many officers are now assigned to that precinct?
There's we approximately have about 200.
200 officers.
You know, with counting officers, supervisors, and support staff.
Amazing.
Maybe a little more.
Okay, and of those, how many are detectives?
We have no detectives currently assigned to the 6th Precinct.
And what does that mean to your caseload?
Well, we have detectives. When we were combined with the 3rd Precinct, we still have those same detectives cover all our cases, but we have no detectives assigned to the building right now because there's been a shortage of detectives due to retirements.
Okay, so what happens and how? I know that they're building a new building in Uniondale as a police academy, and how do you become like a detective? Because I'm assuming that what you have in the precinct are patrol officers?
Correct.
Okay, and probably some special units.
Yes.
A detective does what per se? Just so that I understand in my own mind why a detective is needed in certain circumstances.
Sure. Well, a detective follows up on any cases that have solvability. And, you know, our detectives in Nassau County do everything from, you know, violations of orders of protection, you know, petty larcenies, all the way to homicides. So our detective will be assigned. So if you know, someone you know, has something stolen out of their car, let's say, and there's video, the detectives will follow up with the video, or if there's fingerprints on the car, any solvability, any videos or witnesses, they'll follow up the case. Like the uniformed police come, they do a preliminary investigation, they take a case report, they take a statement from you if you're the victim about what happened, and then it goes sent up to the detective division, and they assign a detective to it, and they'll evaluate the evidence and move forward. Usually the uniformed police officer, once he's finished with you at the scene, then he goes back on patrol and goes to the next case.
Right. Okay. So, and then the detective would come and follow up with any other things. And they're the ones that usually resolve the cases, is that correct?
If it can't be resolved at the scene by the uniform officer, yes, correct. They do all the follow-up investigation and arrests and you know, the testimony in court, etc. Prepare the testimony.
So how many detectives would you say that you would need in the 6th Precinct?
Well, I would say,
yeah.
well, I would say, you know, to cover all the, you know, Monday through Friday, 7 days a week.
Right.
It's not 24/7 that we cover, but yes, we do have guys on standby, but approximately 20. You know, counting supervisors. You know, you need a detective lieutenant and a couple of sergeants too. So about 20 total.
Okay. That's interesting. I know, of course, in my mind, there are all these police shows that I've loved ever since I was a young kid, you know, from The Rookie to the whatever, and, you know, now they have even more. But just to really understand, you know, the basic workings of a police station, it's totally different than what is on television, except on this show. So there are special units, and so in the 6th Precinct, are there any assigned to like domestic violence or?
Well, each precinct has a domestic violence liaison.
Okay.
We don't have any dedicated domestic violence police officers. You know, other places do. Right now, we don't. Not. I mean, other jurisdictions, not in Nassau County, we don't. Okay. But what we have in the 6th Precinct, we have a dedicated, you know, POP unit. which I know we're going to talk about a little later in the show. And we have DWI patrol, and that's basically all we have right now as far as specialty units, just assigned to us at the patrol force. You know, we're supported by, you know, the plainclothes units that are countywide.
Okay. And is there a plainclothes unit in the 6th Precinct? Or?
Not currently. Not currently.
Will there be?
I'm hoping. I'm hoping. We're working on it. We're working on it. We're having a class of officers graduate at the end of December from the police academy, and we hope we'll have enough manpower to now assign people to that.
That's amazing. Okay, cool. So let's talk a little bit about the POP unit. I know that the POP stands for police. No.
Well, it's problem-oriented policing.
Problem-oriented policing. Okay.
Right. It's an older term. It came from the city, which was community-oriented policing. You know, CPOP, but now it's just shortened.
Just POP. Okay.
Yeah.
And so, what is that supposed to do?
Well, what we try to do, it's more of a community outreach kind of thing. So it's more of a dealing with community problems more than, you know, crime, and it's more of community problems and more of quality of life things. You know, that if you're having a problem in your neighborhood with you know, speeders or stop signs or something, they'll be a sign there. Another big aspect of them is school safety. It's a big thing now. We're very invested in that, and they do site assessments for the schools, and we do lockdown drills, lockout drills, and they do those kind of things. Very responsive to the legislature, the mayors, you know, more of not taking reports and filing them, which is what, like, the patrol officers do. They actually go and try to solve the problem with different resources than the normal patrol officer would have.
Right. I know I have worked with the POP officers for Manhasset CASA, which is the Coalition Against Substance Abuse, and they were very useful in their observations and you know, working out strategies that will assist young adults to stay away from these difficult substances that are now prevalent all over the place. Working with the CASA resources and you know, getting shop owners to become part of proactive step to dissuade underage drinking and drugs. So I mean, the guys are great. How long do they stay in that role? Because I've seen it change within, you know, 24 months. I don't know if there's a limit, or is it longer, or if someone is so good that they just...
No, there's no limit.
Okay.
There's no limit. It's like, you know, any other career path that you're taking on the police department or anywhere you work. You know, our guys right now are very invested in it. They wanted to do it, and they're assigned there. But just like anyone else, if they decide now they want to be a detective, or they want to take the test for sergeant, or move to a different precinct, then they will. You know, if they want to, they don't have to stay. It's more a voluntary thing. We want to bring in people that really want to do it, and I'm very proud of the guys that we have, because they're obviously, you know, go-getters, and they really respond to the community. So
yes, I've also dealt with them as president of the Manhasset Chamber when we were working together on our parking issues, and they're great. I mean, we worked with the town of North Hempstead, and together we came up with a really great solution, which is, you know, they really had a lot of insight
yes.
into, you know, the specific problem, and it was very useful to resolve issues. So we're just so happy that there is a pop unit with the 6th Precinct. And even when there wasn't the 6th Precinct, these guys were great. I mean, always very responsive.
Yeah, we give them a lot to do, and we put a lot on their plate, and they've always responded very well. And I know, you know, every community meeting that I go to, there are nothing but positive things to say about them, and so I'm very, very happy with the work they're doing.
I know that you were at a community meeting last night at Shelter Rec. How did the people react to the reopening of the 6th Precinct?
It was very positive.
Yeah.
Everyone is very, very positive now. They have their own thing now, and they feel that the community is going to be better served having the precinct open, and which I feel definitely that's true. That, you know, you have your own place to go, and, you know, the officers feel better. So I think the quality of work will be better, and it's just a positive for everyone. The people at the meeting were very positive about the opening of the precinct, and you know, they thought the building looked great. Yeah. So from the outside, you know, of course, not everyone went inside, but.
Well, you know, I went inside, and it definitely had a refreshed look. I didn't go through the entire place, but I know that there was a gentleman that I had spoken to who grew up right across the street from there, and he had mentioned to me that it made such a big difference to have a precinct right there and to have the patrolmen, you know, as friends. And this impacted his life in a positive way. So I know that it's just so critical.
Yeah, you know, that I think you know, it's one of my thrusts is community policing. It's one of my beliefs, and you know, I was at a school a few weeks ago, and they was talking about the pop officers again, and that, you know, years ago, if a policeman was at the school, that means something bad happened. And, you know, we want to try to get away from that kind of attitude that, you know, you have to be afraid if the police are there. And now we have the police routinely going to the schools to say hello. So it becomes routine that, you know, the policeman, like, you know, not to say a cliche, but the policeman is your friend. You know, the policeman is there to help you. You know, that's what he's there for, to help any way he can. So we're trying to change that dynamic to more of we're partners than it's you tell me and then I solve your problem. We're partners in it. So that's where we're going with that, and hopefully we can turn a corner, you know, and have more positive interaction. And I think the opening of the precinct is a big step in that, big step in community engagement for the officers and the community.
Exactly, exactly. So tell me a little bit about the career path of an officer. Okay, I know you have to go into the academy for training, and that's typically 10 to 12 months? Or?
About 7 months.
Oh, 7 months, okay.
Yeah. Well, what happens is you have to take a civil service test.
Okay.
So you take a test, you get a grade, and if you're chosen, you become, you know, a police cadet, you know, or you know, and you go into the police academy. So you stay there for 7 months, and then if you complete that training, you're appointed as a police officer, and then you come out onto the streets, as they say.
Okay.
So then, if you excel as a police officer, and if you as the police officer want to become a detective, then you put in for that. Like every couple of months we have want ads. So if you want to be a detective, you want to go into the Marine Bureau, you want to go to the plainclothes unit, you want to go to here, you put in an application and you're evaluated on your work up until that point. Mm-hmm. So that's the way that kind of thing happens. Detective, Marine Bureau, Highway Patrol, Mounted, Canine. That's all like you put in for it and you're evaluated, and when an opening comes up, you'll get it or you won't based on your work, your body of work. To become like a sergeant, you have to take another civil service test. So you have to study, take the test, and you're appointed by your score. So you score 1, you get appointed first, And, you have to wait until there's a need. And as a need arises, more people will be taken off the list and promoted. And the same thing for lieutenant and captain. Then from captain to deputy inspector and inspector, it's also appointed. So you have to have a body of work, and then you're appointed to those positions. Take a test. So it's more of a merit kind of appointment.
I see. Okay. And then to become an inspector, do you have to take a test?
No. After captain, you're appointed. So
okay.
Yeah. So.
Wow.
So I was lucky enough to be appointed in September.
That's awesome. Well, as I said, congratulations.
Thank you
We're
very
happy
much.
to have you here. So now that the precinct has been open for almost 6 months, a little over 5, what's the most immediate focus of your command today?
Well, the things that we're working on and the things that we spoke about at the meeting last night is there's 2 things that are really things that bother me and the officers, and is theft of vehicles and theft from vehicles. I kind of put them into one category, but theft from vehicles and theft of vehicles. And in the couple of months I've been here, every single stolen car we've had has been unlocked with the key in it. So not that we've had a lot, but still, that's still more than you should have. But every car has been unlocked with the key in it. And I'm talking, Range Rovers, Bentleys, any high-end car you could think of, people are not locking them and people are leaving. And the same thing in thefts from the cars. People walk down the street, check the handles, car's open, they go and take whatever's inside. And it seems like a simple fix to just lock your car.
Right.
But it is, it's not that it's a local problem. It's everywhere.
Right.
Everywhere. People don't lock your car, and things are happening. And the other thing about locking your car and leaving a key in, a lot of times it has a garage door opener. And then you get the garage door open, and then you can go in the house. So it's a lot of things that we wish weren't happening, but that do happen. And the second thing that we've been trying to focus on with our education efforts, let me say that, more than enforcement efforts, is these elderly scams. You have, a guy calls on the phone, says, we have your nephew here, he's been in an accident, and we need you to send some money to make sure he's okay. And what do? They tell you to go get money orders or green dot orders and send the money here or send the money there, or they say, well, we only take cash and we'll come and pick it up. But there's all variations of that. There's you won the lottery, you won the Publishers Clearinghouse, all you have to do is pay the tax,
right.
Blah, and it predominantly is elderly people. And the elderly person, even though I know one friend of mine was wouldn't do anything to anybody, but now older gentleman, now alone, gets a call, and now he wants to help somebody, and he gets things just because he wants the interaction with somebody. And
right.
It's a very, very sad thing. But we try to educate the seniors on these kind of scams, but they pressure them and they pressure them, and they don't know how to handle it, and it's a big problem that I wish we could do more.
Yeah.
But a lot of times it's multinational and multi-state, where it goes through different phones, different computers. It's hard to trace. So it's a difficult crime to solve, but we have had success in the past. We have had success. The biggest thing is early, like if we hear right away, then we could set something up, set up a sting and say, yeah, well, we'll send it here and have someone pick it up, and then we'll know where it goes.
Interesting.
And we could do a sting like that, but most of the time we find out after
They give the money.
And now they didn't get what they were supposed to get.
Right.
So.
Well, I know when I receive these phone calls, I'm always amazed. Well, the one that really bothered me was when they called me to say that my husband was in an accident, and I knew that my husband was working from home that day, and I'm like, "You're lying." "Oh no, we're not lying." So I did call the police on, but unfortunately they can't do much because the IP address of the phone call or whatever goes through, I don't know,
Right.
trunk lines or on all different
there's
things.
a way to cloak where the phone is coming from.
Right. And sometimes I know that when I call back a number that has left a message, the number is not in service, which is, I don't know, that has to be fixed. It is that really is something, not necessarily by you, but perhaps by legislation or something like that, because it's obviously causing a lot of problems.
Yeah, I think that it's a bigger problem, and now it goes into privacy issues with the phones and the phone carriers, and it's a multi-level problem.
Yeah.
That needs a multi-pronged approach to really solve it, but there's a lot of layers there to get to the bottom of it.
Very interesting. Now, I know that earlier when we were speaking, you were telling me that the crime rate has declined, but that the crime rate on the internet has increased related to internet kind of crimes. With the change, and you also had mentioned with the change of daylight savings time, that there was a slight rise with burglaries. Why was that?
Well, it's been historic, since I've been a police officer, that around the time that we have daylight savings time, where it gets dark a lot earlier. Mm-hmm. So a lot of times it'll get dark 4:30, 4:45, and what the criminals do is they'll drive around and see whose lights don't come on, and then they know that those people are still at work and they're not home yet. So that's a prime opportunity. It's like a little flag that says, no one's home here, I could give it a shot, and we see that every year, a little uptick since I've been a policeman. Mm-hmm. And it's no one's fault really, but you could try to have your lights on timers, things like that, have alarms. There's all sorts of ways to harden the target. But I'm just saying, historically, when it gets darker earlier, it's just a little tell, as we call it.
Well, thank you so much for being a guest on From the Source. That's all we have for today. Thank you for watching From the Source. Tune in next time for more in-depth interviews with members from your community.